Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kerry Conway, and I'm the Executive Director of the Area 10 Agency on Aging. A little less than a year ago, Area 10 convened a group of community leaders who work on issues related to aging and in the community. And we convened at Ivy Tech, and we were convening around issues related to elder justice. We had a wonderful series of presentations by all those folks who work in the community in this field. And then we got together at a round table and we discussed what we as a community were willing to commit to in terms of making certain that our older Americans and those with disabilities in our community would receive the best services possible in order to age in place in their homes and in our community. One of the ideas that came out of those discussions was the idea of starting a guardianship program, a volunteer guardianship program, for those in our community who are the very most vulnerable, those who are incapacitated and indigent. This program has very quickly grown out of that process, and I could not be prouder than I am to stand here today to talk about how this program has developed from the grassroots up into a viable, funded program that is going to serve those in our community who most need the help. There are so many people who have brought us to this point today, and I'm really proud to be able to introduce some of those folks to you. The first one I'd like to bring up here is Chris Gaal, our Monroe County prosecuting attorney, to talk about his role in this process.
Thank you, Kerry. The state of Indiana contracts with prosecutors to run the Adult Protective Services Program, or APS program. APS investigates reports of endangered adults threatened with harm as a result of abuse, neglect, or exploitation. Indiana is divided into 18 APS hubs, and each hub is based in a hub county's prosecutor's office and serves a regional area. So for instance, our APS unit in Unit 10 is housed here in Monroe County, and it serves the 3 counties of Monroe, Morgan, and Owen. This has been an issue that's been close to my heart for a long time, and for the past couple years I've been actively engaged on behalf of Indiana prosecutors through IPAC, the Indiana Prosecuting Attorneys Council, on getting additional resources for adult protective services so that APS can meet the tremendous need that is out there, which is a growing need and a demand for services. The sad fact is that our APS system in Indiana is overworked, understaffed, and underfunded, and it's been on the back burner for many years, and it's time to fix it. These numbers that I'm going to give you really tell the story of APS in a nutshell. In 2013, APS received almost 40,000 reports, calls for service, and based on those 40,000 calls, opened 10,000 cases for investigation. That's an APS system that covers 92 counties and is handled by only 27.5 investigators and 17 directors. So that's simply, APS simply doesn't have adequate resources, adequate staff to give those cases the quality of attention that they deserve. And at the same time, the elderly population has grown and it's projected to continue growing to become a significantly higher percentage of the overall population as the baby boomer generation retires and we continue to age as a society. This has been called the silver tsunami, and it's happening right now, and it will continue to increase demands for services for seniors over at least the next 2 decades. The largest category of cases that our APS system receives involve self-neglect. That means an adult who's incapable of managing their own self-care. So it's not the result of someone doing something bad to them. It's not a crime. It means that the person's on their own and they can't take care of themselves and they have no one to help them. And too often, these people go unnoticed. These situations go unreported. But when someone does notice, they call APS, and APS goes out and they conduct an investigation, and what they find is often disturbing, often even heartbreaking. It's often an elderly person living in squalor, undernourished, sometimes with serious health issues, body sores, bed bugs, trash, personal filth piled up around them. That's what we mean by self-neglect. And it's clear that there needs to be some type of intervention, possibly case management, ongoing supervision, in-home assistance, or perhaps even placement into a residential facility. APS documents those facts in its investigation, and then it begins the process to try to find appropriate services to address the issue, which may involve taking some kind of legal action. And in the case of self-neglect, we're not talking about filing criminal charges. We're talking about finding a solution, finding services in the community to help support that individual, looking for the least restrictive means to ensure that they have the support to continue living an independent life with dignity to the greatest extent possible, given their situation. If the person is incapable of managing their own financial or personal affairs due to an incapacity, an illness such as dementia or Alzheimer's disease, stroke, traumatic brain injury, developmental disability, or a serious mental illness, then the solution may involve pursuing a civil legal remedy, such as filing a petition for guardianship. Because of the shortage of resources that I mentioned, not all APS units in the state of Indiana will file a petition for guardianship. Our APS unit here in Unit 10 is one of the ones that will do so, and when necessary, get that ball rolling in court. We have a different problem in our community. If the person in need of a guardian doesn't have family or friends available to help, and they're living in poverty, we can't find guardians in our community available to serve the vast need that's out there. And you need both. You need someone to file the petition for a guardianship in an appropriate case, and you need someone then take on that responsibility of acting as a guardian. And that's a serious problem in Indiana. And it's been recognized as a problem in our state. Indiana created a few years ago the Adult Guardianship Task Force to study this issue, and they issued a report. And that report documents how Indiana is one of only a handful of states that does not have a state-supported public system of providing adult guardianship services for the indigent. Instead, Indiana struggled to keep pace with the fast-growing need for guardianship services through a loosely organized combination of public agencies, private organizations, volunteer pro bono attorney services, and unfortunately, the demand for no-fee or low-cost guardianship services has far outstripped the available resources from this patchwork effort that we have in our state. Meanwhile, incapacitated persons without financial means or personal support from suitable family members have been vulnerable to slipping through the cracks, suffering harm from financial exploitation, medical neglect, physical and emotional abuse. The watchful eye of a guardian can dramatically reduce those risks through doing things like prudent management of finances, timely health care decision-making, the appropriate determination of living arrangements, and other kinds of vital oversight that can protect an incapacitated person. The Indiana Adult Guardianship Task Force made recommendations which included a proposal to fund local volunteer guardianship programs. And then the Indiana Supreme Court made it a priority and stepped up to provide funding for a grant program to encourage volunteer advocate for seniors or incapacitated adults, or VASIA, programs in local communities around the state. VASIA volunteers are basically just community members who are recruited and trained and overseen by a volunteer guardianship program. And these volunteers are then appointed by a local judge to advocate for an incapacitated adult who's unable to manage their own affairs, which is a role similar to that performed by a court-appointed special advocate, or CASA, in a case involving a child. We need adult guardians in this community. We constantly run up against that need in our APS program. I've been talking about the need for adult guardians for years. We identified that need at the Elder Justice Summit convened by Area 10 Agency on Aging last fall that Kerry Conway just mentioned. Kerry and I have been working on this. We knew that the VASIA grant money was out there. We knew that this was something that we could make happen in our community if we put our minds to it. We convened an advisory board to work on it, involving other stakeholders like Centerstone, Stone Belt, IU Health Bloomington Hospital, local elder law attorneys, and other senior advocates, many of whom are here today at this event. We applied for that VASIA grant from the Office of State Court Administration, and we got it. We applied for local funds through the County Council's Sophia Travis Community Service Grant Program, and we got funding. We got in-kind support from the Perry Township Trustee's Office in the form of office space, and the Prosecutor's Office provided some additional funding. The Advisory Board has now moved forward and hired a director for this program. Area 10 is administering the program. We are ready to start recruiting volunteers, training those volunteers, raising additional funds, and moving this forward. And hopefully, we'll soon be ready to start accepting clients. Our APS program is certainly ready to start referring cases that are so desperately in need of a guardian. So we're here to announce this new program, talk about how important and valuable it is, start raising awareness, and also educate people about what adult guardianship is and the legal process for creating a guardianship, what the rules are, the legal and ethical standards for acting as a guardian, and what local resources are available here in our community to help. So at the same time that we're announcing this new program and this grant, we're also putting out information. The prosecutor's office produced a video called Adult Guardianship, What You Need to Know, and it's free. It's available on YouTube. We sent out a press release today on email and put it on Facebook, social media. You can link to the video there or at the prosecutor's office website at www.monroeprosecutor.us or on Area 10 website at www.area10agency.org. Please feel free to watch that video. Feel free to share it. There's also a companion fact sheet that accompanies the video and summarizes the information about adult guardianship. It's physically available right here. You can pick it up. It's on the desk right there. It's also in all those electronic places that I just mentioned. So in any event, I wanted to thank you all for your interest in this, for being here to help us celebrate what's really a big milestone for a program that we've been working on for a year. If you like this program and you want to become involved, we need your help. We need your support. We need volunteer guardians. We'll provide the training and the support and the oversight and the assistance so that you can be successful in performing that volunteer role. But this is really a great chance to make a difference, to share your skills and talents, and to give something back to the community and help someone in need. So please feel free to contact the Monroe County Volunteer Guardianship Program through the Area 10 Agency on Aging. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chris. It's actually in my career in this region, I have had the opportunity many times to work with vulnerable populations, and it seems like no matter what the age or what those vulnerable populations are, every time I look around the table, I see one face all the time, and that's the Honorable Stephen Galvin, who has been such a wonderful asset to this group as we've moved forward.
Well, good afternoon. I get the enviable job of just saying thank you. Thank you to so many people who are making this possible. And before I say those thank yous, let me just sort of reflect for just a moment on what it means, because I'm saying thank you not for a court system, not for us, but for the people who are affected by this program and who so desperately need it. If you were in this courtroom yesterday, I believe, Ms. Scott, every day we have people who need a guardian, and it's difficult at times to find people to fulfill that role. Yesterday we had a wonderful lady who is suffering from the same thing that I think, or I shouldn't say the same thing, but many of the same kind of problems that we will all experience as we age, we of the boomer generation. What was it you called it? The silver tsunami. The silver tsunami. I'm darn proud to be one. She so desperately needed a guardian, someone not just to look after finances, but someone to be there. Someone to be able to know that she was doing well, to visit her on a regular basis. And that's the hard part. finding that person. And that's what this program is designed to do. And Ms. Scott and Adult Protective Services do a wonderful job. They truly need the resources that this guardianship program can provide. And on behalf of that lady, I'm not going to name her, but and on behalf of all of the incapacitated adults that I see, I want to thank you all, because this is wonderful. And what you've done is wonderful. Now, we've got a lot of work left to do, but we'll get there. I need to start with Area 10 and thank you, because Kerry, without you, this wouldn't have gotten started. I have discussed starting a program for the last 2 or 3 years. We just couldn't seem to get it off the ground. And Area 10 and the folks who participated in the summit took this and ran with it. And never even, faster than I could have hoped for. Thank you so much. Thank you to the Indiana Supreme Court and the Indiana legislature for making the funds available to help fund this program. We have with us today David Remondini from State Court Administration and Erica Costello. Erica is going to speak here in just a moment, but without you, we wouldn't have gotten this done, and we couldn't get this done, and we thank you so much. I want to say thank you to the Monroe County Commissioners, to the Monroe County Council for the funding that they have contributed. Prosecutor Gaal has been I might add, has been a primary movement in this process. And Chris, you've just been wonderful. And thank you. Thank you for everything you've done. Now I'm going to leave out all the people who've been on the committee, all the people who are sitting around here, and I don't mean to. I just can't do justice to all of you. But on behalf of those incapacitated adults, I want to say thank you for the community. As someone who can speak, I hope, for the community, from my heart. We appreciate it so much. Now, I have one other thing that I wish to do. I wish to challenge the community. This has been, Bloomington is a wonderful place to live, not the least of which because we have the volunteer spirit. We have, every day in this courtroom, I have court-appointed special advocates who are here as volunteers, who speak on behalf of children who are the victims of abuse and neglect. Well, we're going to need volunteers for this program. And so I challenge the community, but I don't think I really need to, because I do believe that we will have volunteers, many volunteers who wish to take on this responsibility. And I do hope and I urge you to contact Area 10 and volunteer for the guardianship program. I believe it will be well worth your time. And I look forward to being the judge in this courtroom when we start this program going, and you can't do it quickly enough, all right? That's it. Ms. Scott and I we're ready right now, all right? Thank you all very much.
Our next speaker is a young woman by the name of Erica Costello, who has been so instrumental in guiding us through the process of applying for this grant, and also has provided a lot of guidance in terms of program direction and support. And as Judge Galvin pointed out, we could not be doing it without her. So thank you so much, Erica, and please come up and say hi to Monroe County.
Thank you guys so much for the opportunity to come down here today as you launch your new guardianship program. I just remember meeting with several of your local agencies just a few months ago, and it's so great to see taking that dream and making it a reality here in the community. So thank you again. I think this is a great opportunity for your community to serve the very many vulnerable and incapacitated adults that you have here in this community. And just to give you a little bit of background about the guardianship programs that we're developing in our state, in 2013, there was funding that the state legislature provided for the development of these programs, and then this year our funding was increased to $1 million, so we were able to develop and expand volunteer-based guardianship programs hopefully into, in the future, all 92 counties in our state. But definitely we're taking it one by one, and it's great to have Monroe County now part of our program, and to serve the very many vulnerable and incapacitated adults. So thank you so much again for the opportunity to come down here today. And again, we'd like to thank the Indiana State Legislature and the very many members and agencies in your community that have made this effort, again, a reality. So thank you.
As you've heard, we've had many players at the table in this collaborative effort, and one of the organizations that we always count on for help whenever we're working with a vulnerable population is Stone Belt. All of you at one point or another have probably had contact with Stone Belt, and Stone Belt CEO Leslie Green is here today to talk a little bit about her population and her organization.
Well, thanks for the opportunity to be here. As many of you know, Stone Belt is an organization that prepares, empowers, and supports individuals with developmental and intellectual disabilities so that they can be as active in the community as possible. Stone Belt was involved in starting a guardianship program in a neighboring county. It's probably been almost 10 years ago, and it's been my desire since that time to see that brought to Monroe County, and I'm glad with the resources that have been made available and the leadership of Area 10, we're able to see that happen, and Stone Belt wants to be a very vital part of this partnership. The individuals that we support do have intellectual and developmental disabilities. Many of them are left without family, either because they've aged and their family are no longer living, or because sometime in their life they lost contact with their family. And sad to say, they do not have someone that's not paid to be with them to really look out for their best interest. We always want the supports that they get to be at least restrictive as possible, giving them as many opportunities as we can to have them make decisions and be involved in their life and have choices in their life. But the fact remains that a lot of times very big decisions have to be made, or sometimes even small decisions have to be made. And Stone Belt is put in an awkward position when there's not a guardian to do that. So we're very delighted to have this program coming on board. We've seen the success that it can provide. And we know that the Monroe County community has big hearts, and we look forward to seeing those guardians come on board, and we'll do whatever we can to help in the recruitment and training of those guardians so that the individuals we support, as well as other incapacitated adults in the Monroe County, can have these good supports and services. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Leslie. As mentioned, lots of partners, and I don't want to leave folks out, but there is somebody here today from one of our critical partners, and that's IU Hospital Bloomington. Has been at the table since day one. And we have here today Audrey Hicks, a social worker from IU Health Bloomington, to talk to us about the hospital's role in this program.
Hello, I'm Audrey Hicks. As a social worker at the hospital, I've had the privilege of working with all different kinds of populations, caring for some of whom are at their most vulnerable when they come to the hospital with, illness or mental illness, other things going on. I kind of wanted to take a moment to kind of talk to you about what kind of Chris and Kerry have all spoken to, and just kind of lead you through sort of a visualization to kind of make this hit home of a composite patient that I've kind of put together for you. And I'd like you to imagine this, that you are 85 years old. You've been living independently in the same home that you've lived for 50 years. Your spouse has passed away. You have no other family. You've been recently diagnosed with dementia, and you've had to stop driving and rely upon public transportation, which becomes increasingly confusing to navigate. You stop going out, and you become increasingly isolated. Your mind begins to hold you prisoner, and you begin to believe that everyone who comes to your door is trying to harm you. Your electricity might even get shut off because you forget how and when to pay your bills. Eventually, you become more weak and confused, and you might have a fall or have something happen to you that lands you in the hospital, in our care, and no one there to help you make decisions at the end of your life. You're essentially alone. So just take a minute to feel, from that person's standpoint, how scary that is, how frightening. And unfortunately, this does happen all too often in our community. As you've heard from others' testimonies, this kind of story, it ends up playing out in various ways, but ultimately it does demonstrate the level of importance of a program like this, helping the most vulnerable in the community, the elderly, the disabled, people who are suffering from debilitating mental illness. And by stepping up to assist them before they have that fall or before the concerned neighbor contacts Adult Protective Services, with whom we work very closely at the hospital, we can make a difference in these people's lives, in their experiences. These people who can't even access resources like food stamps or Medicaid, or, get signed up for any kind of insurance, or even sign themselves into a nursing facility if they need that. So obviously becoming a volunteer with this program is something that will help ensure our neighbors have preserved their dignity as human beings. So I hope all of you consider becoming a volunteer with this program. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Audrey. Our last speaker today is somebody who has been at the table from day one. And she is probably the one who has the largest arsenal of stories to tell. And she is also the one that every time I looked across the table at her, I realized that there was a sense of urgency about the work that we were trying to do. Wendy Scott, Director of Adult Protective Services.
Hello, I'm Wendy Scott. Thank you for being here today. Guardianship can be a valuable tool used to ensure the financial and physical safety of incapacitated adults. However, there is a significant unmet need when it comes to both public and professional guardianship services. With the population aging and life expectancy increasing, those needs will become even greater in the future. Our Adult Protective Services Unit will petition the court to appoint a professional guardian in cases involving incapacitated adults who do not have family who are appropriate or willing to be guardian. There are only a few professional guardians who serve the Monroe County area, and oftentimes, due to heavy client loads, they are unable to take on new guardianships. This puts our office in the difficult position of trying to find alternative solutions for the incapacitated adults we are trying to protect. The Volunteer Guardianship Program is going to provide us with another option in cases where a guardianship is needed. There are many times when we receive calls from a local nursing home or the hospital requesting a guardian for patients who are no longer mentally competent. Oftentimes, these individuals are estranged from family and have no one to make decisions for them. Those cases can now be referred to the Volunteer Guardianship Program, giving our office time to focus on more complicated cases. We are looking forward to supporting the growth of this program and hope to use it as a guardianship resource for years to come. Our office is appreciative of the collaborative efforts that have gone into bringing such an important resource to our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Wendy. I do want to say that one of our very important partners could not be here today, one of the people who's been sitting at the table. And that's David from Centerstone, but Stephanie Estelle from Centerstone is here today representing Centerstone, and they have been instrumental. We have other folks in the audience. I want to make certain that I don't leave anybody out. But in particular, I do want to point out Jack Kahn and Alice Astrike from the Commission on Aging are here today, and Jack has been there since day one. And Alice also helped us at the very beginning of this, and the Commission on Aging has been a wonderful forum for us to get information out about this program. So thank you so much, Alice and Jack. Alice, your leadership at the Commission on Aging has been critical for this community, and we do truly appreciate that. For those of you who have served on the committee, I wish all of you would stand up and take a bow. We also have Jeannie Marie May here, who is our home and community-based service representative from Life Care Medical. She has fed us once a month for almost a year, which is just, you can't believe how much easier it is to get people to a lunch meeting if you're serving lunch. So thank you, Jeannie May. If all the committee members could please stand for a round of applause. You all deserve it. Thank you very much. I'm also very pleased to announce that we have made a hiring decision as a group, and the gentleman that we hired is here today. If you could stand up, this is Bert Clemens, formerly long-term care ombudsman for the Area 10 Agency on Aging, formerly COO of Life Designs, and formerly CEO of Crystal House. He has got feet in the worlds of those with developmental disabilities, as well as those older adults who are in skilled nursing facilities. So he brings a broad range of experience, and he is going to be the voice at the end of the phone when you start calling. And this is a really good opportunity for me to give you that contact information. If you call the Area 10 Agency on Aging, that phone number, I see pencils, okay, 812-876-3383. Operators are standing by, okay? You will probably get put to Bert's voicemail at the moment, but we will return your call. We are actively seeking volunteers at this point. So if you know of anyone who's interested or would like to be involved in the program, there are other volunteer opportunities, maybe some administrative work, maybe a little office work, maybe some public speaking. So even if you feel like you can't necessarily be involved as a volunteer guardian, there are other ways that you can help us with this program. So please call 876-3383. And again, thank you so much to all of the partners out there who have made this possible. And you know, for the community that I'm sure is going to step up and volunteer and truly change the lives. And that is the one thing, if you think about it, that all older adults have in common is that they've all experienced loss. They all have. I mean, they've lost their grandparents, they've lost their parents, a lot of them have lost their children, their ministers have moved away, their friends have moved away. It's very easy when you're 85 years old to find yourself very, very isolated. And if you've got issues with cognitive decline, it is very easy to become isolated, disconnected, unhealthy, and start to neglect yourself. It's so easy to have that happen, and all it takes to fix that is someone willing to go in and make a difference. And as a community, I know we're willing to do that. So we're looking forward to the launch of this program. Anyone who is interested in participating at any level, and that includes cash donations, please call us. Thank you all so much for being here today.